Hey everyone, hope you're all having a good start to your day. I think to start this panel off on going from 0 to 1, it'd be great if each of you could give a brief introduction about yourselves and the project or the company you guys work for. Nader, do you want to start?
Sure. My name is Nader. I'm the developer relations lead at the Eigen Labs, which we focus on EigenLayer AVSs, EigenDA, and also teams building on Eigen AVSs. And I've been a developer for 13 years and developer relations for 7 years.
Awesome. I'm Yarden. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Othentic. What we build is a self-deploy infrastructure to spin up AVSs. We basically abstract away all of the low-level implementation, all of the error-prone infrastructure details for AVS builders so they can focus on their core service, on their core protocol, and basically do what they do best, building awesome products.
Hi, everyone. Luke here, co-founder and CEO of SatLayer. So what we do is unleash the possibilities of the world's best economic collateral, Bitcoin. And how we do it is by working with Babylon, which you'll hear about shortly, to really, I think, bring the AVS kind of support functionalities and modular security on Bitcoin to be on par with that of EVM side of things.
Hi guys, my name is Sina, and I'm part of the ecosystem team at Babylon, which is the first non-custodial trustless protocol for Bitcoin staking, allowing Bitcoin holders to stake their Bitcoin and validate POS chains and earn block rewards. And I help different AVSs or POS systems on board on Babylon as part of my role.
So first question would be, for prospective builders and developers out there, when does it make sense for them to build as an AVS versus not building on top of shared security at all?
I'll go ahead. So as long as a service needs trust, this is where you should spin up an AVS. If you build some sort of like an off-chain computation and off-chain logic in a trusted party, basically the execution, the production should be off-chain. That's right, because we need high throughput, we need high CPU requirement, for instance, but the validation of the service should sit on-chain. Basically, a network should come onto agreement on a certain output of computation. And this is where AVSs comes into play.
I almost feel like there's some parallels there between if you want to build an L1 or an L2. I'm kind of feeling that vibe sometimes when I talk to different teams. But it's just a lot easier to build as an AVS. That's to put it simply. People are building like multi-billion-dollar companies, but they're also building like very specialized services that will only be used by their application. So I think it's essentially across the board, definitely specific to the team and all of the different trade-offs that they personally want to go for. But I would say most teams that we talk to now are essentially saying, okay, we're going to probably build as an AVS unless we can find a reason that we shouldn't, as opposed to the other way around, which is, I guess, what you would have seen a couple of years ago.
So in the context of Babylon, it's slightly different because we provide this service to existing POS systems who have block rewards, and we help them basically bootstrap their security and the economic backing, and also lower their emissions. So this is like something that's an existing business model in crypto compared to EigenLayer, which unlocks more new use cases in crypto. But I guess SatLayer also builds on top of Babylon, so I'll let Luke explain that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, the way we if we take a step back to look at it, right, I think if we're honest with ourselves, especially in bear markets, there's some level of decentralization theater that's been the case in the space to date where, for part of the justification for every project to have a token is like, oh yeah, we secure our own blockchain, right? But when you really step back and look at it, the amount of security you can have with your token if you're a more nascent project or in the depths of bear market is not that high, especially when you compare it to the best in the space of Ethereum and Bitcoin's security model, right? And so I think that's in some ways like what we're trying to do is to really uplift security for the entire space and allow everyone to more easily use the best security we have available in the space.
So I think you all briefly touched on part of what is going to be my next question, which was how actually does it do each of your projects make it easier for a developer to go from 0 to 1, right?
I think if you kind of I'm going to borrow some of the, I would say, language and analogies that I've seen Surium give, but also build upon that a little bit. But you kind of think about the existence of platforms and how they enable innovation and competition and just building of different types of things. So a couple of analogies: airports. They might not seem that there's a lot of similarities to Ethereum, but airports allow airlines to come and do business and compete with each other. So if I want to essentially launch an airline, if airports didn't exist, I would have to build runways. I would have to build airports for my airplane. I would have to hire security. I'll have to do all this stuff. But instead, I can kind of show up and I can say, I want to do business at this airport. The airport's the platform. Ethereum is the platform for building decentralized applications. The App Store is the platform for building mobile apps. All these platforms enable innovation and they enable people to build more easily with some guardrails and some constraints, right? So I think in the past, you were kind of constrained, obviously, by smart contract networks to build using their virtual machine. But with these new restaking platforms, you're now kind of expanding that to build arbitrary decentralized networks. So we have the new developer platform, which is the AVS platform. And I think we're just now starting to kind of see that play out. And there's just an infinite number of things that can be built there. So.
Yeah, of course, in the context, of course, of Othentic, the underlying infrastructure is, of course, EigenLayer, Babylon, other shared security platform, of course. So again, in the context of Othentic, what we allow is to developer to focus, again, on their services, on their protocol. And we handle the heavy lifting of the consensus mechanism, of the P2P networking, the communication between the nodes, the attestation, where the nodes submit their attestation, how the protocol audits them, how is the message passing mechanism works, how the cross-chain message mechanism works between the different layers, all of the required smart contract that needed for AVSs. So we build it as some sort of a library of production-ready components, and we treat ourselves not as a middleware service that needs reliance. Basically, the AVS needs to rely on. Rather, they self-deploy it. So they can configure everything according to their own needs. They can configure the protocol rules. They can configure the validation semantics. And basically focus only on their business logic, only on the execution and the validation. So this is how we see the abstraction and the acceleration, basically, of product using shared security and let them accelerate their time to market.
Yeah, I think to very much add on to that point, right? I think as founders in this space, it's hard enough to kind of build your core business, whereas for dApps, for a lot of these kind of newer chains launching, right? Now you have to kind of build your own core business, build a dApp, get your users, but also kind of before it's shared security, you have to worry about the security side of things, have to worry about your own blockchain, and it's do you really want to build from the very base layer all the way to the top? Or do you want to leverage something like shared security where you can basically abstract away a portion of the kind of hard things you need to do without really compromising on the quality of security and really allow your team to refocus on your core business itself?
Yeah, in the context of Babylon, basically, the way we accelerate a protocol is we help it bootstrap a basic level of economic security using Bitcoin, the largest, most decentralized asset we have. That's kind of sitting idle for the first time. It's going to be unlocked from this being an island to being connected to the rest of the POS system. And not just, so the actual, the technical hurdle is not necessarily spinning up a chain. It's actually bringing on a basic level of economic security, but also we're also opening up the protocol to someone's a builder's project to a whole host of new market participants who have previously been not able to participate, and they can now participate in the shared security of this new protocol and also be familiar with it, because now they can do something with their Bitcoin and participate in these new projects.
But let's say like a developer. So I think it makes sense now that, all right, building on top of each of you guys makes it much easier for a developer to kind of get started and get going, and a bunch of stuff that you used to have to think about gets abstracted away now. But as they think about what they're building, right? I think a couple of you provide our shared security protocols. Yarden, obviously, you work with all of them. As a developer thinks through where they want to build, right? And whether it's EigenLayer on top of SatLayer plus Babylon, what are kind of some of the trade-offs that they should think through? And Yarden, maybe you'd be a good person to start with.
I think at the end of the day, developers want to sell, basically, to have this middleware service, right? To integrate with other networks, to integrate with other applications. They want the all underlying infrastructure to be baked in, right? They do care about operation set, right? They do care if the operators are centralized in terms of location or in terms of even the platforms. And I think this, multi-party participation from both the Ethereum ecosystem, the Bitcoin ecosystem, it's good for developers to have more distributed sets of validators. So they do care, but at the end of the day, they provide node client software, right, to operators to run. They do care about the number of committee, the number of nodes that participate, but they want the shared security itself, as we see it, to be baked in their underlying infrastructure. So hope it answered this question.
Yeah, so I think I would summarize it in this. This is how I understand it, basically. If you want to build a service that has customizable slashing conditions, and it's kind of a net new thing, and you want to be aligned with Ethereum, there's no better way to build on than EigenLayer. But then if you already have an existing POS system and you have block rewards and you have objective slashing conditions in the way that you just want to prevent double signing, you can build on Babylon. And if you want to build something on Bitcoin, but you want more customizable slashing conditions, you have to work with some project like SatLayer. And if you want to make all of that easier, you should probably work with Othentic. So this is kind of like the way I would summarize it.
I thought those were really good explanations. I mean, I think technically you have this idea of a sovereign rollup where you're kind of bound to the underlying settlement layer. I mean, I guess you could consider that these different protocols are bound a little bit to their underlying security layers. But I think we should get to the point, and we're starting to get to the point in Web3 where it's just we're building applications that users use, and the underlying infrastructure ultimately in the future won't matter that much maybe, and therefore that would be the way that I would look at that from the perspective of building a product, maybe.
Anything you want to
Yeah, I think yeah, all great points so far. I think definitely good, Nader. I think we can get to that eventually. Although I think at the current stage, right, there is. I think crypto is still quite tribal, right, for better or for worse. But I think from not just security's perspective, but also from a narrative perspective, if you're building the Bitcoin ecosystem, you should probably leverage Bitcoin security, and then vice versa. If you're building an Ethereum ecosystem, probably should leverage Ethereum security. But I do agree. I think in the future, I see it's almost just as it will be kind of a multi-chain future, I think it'll be a kind of multi-collateral world for modular security, right? Where there's going to be different use cases where one collateral is better than the other.
And one last point is that I think the market will decide what the rate of borrowing security from Ethereum and Bitcoin is. So you will, at any given point, you will have a choice of what the cost to your protocol is and what you need from it. So it's just good to have multiple options. So but I agree in the long future, all of these will be abstracted away. So it'll just be focused on what the service is.
So Sina, I think on that point, abstracting stuff away for developers and making it even easier, I want to focus on that a bit more too. In your eyes, having worked with a bunch of developers for some time now, what are some of the biggest pieces of missing tooling or other things that you think need to be built to make it even easier for developers to come into your ecosystems and build AVSs and leverage shared security?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's still a little bit more straightforward than for EigenLayer. So we work with existing stacks like Cosmos SDK and IBC and the OP stack and things like that. So obviously, like smooth integrations with those stacks is very important, and like having great docs and having a great supporting engineering staff to help onboard teams, but also. This is like what the basic requirement is, but also having like standard libraries like what Othentic is building, integrations with rollups as a service, and all these things are very important. Yeah, so I think I think there's nothing novel in my answer, but this is just like all the things you have to cover to make sure make the developer's job very easy to onboard.
Yeah, I mean, I've just met with some teams last night that were building on Othentic, and they were just expressing how good of an experience it was building there. So I think tools like Othentic that essentially just enable developers to more easily build AVSs. We're obviously going to continue to improve the developer experience as much as possible in-house, but tools like this just make it that much easier. So I'm excited for tools like Othentic.
Yeah, and I think for us, we're really extending the set of slashing conditions that you can use on Babylon in an easy manner, right? So if you look at the kind of EigenLayer AVS landscape, there's all these custom slashing conditions like node liveness, challenge-proof data availability that I think Babylon itself doesn't natively necessarily have, right? And so that's really, I think, one of our core focuses is to have support for these slashing conditions and make it easier and almost plug and play for developers to use.
I'm a bit biased, I guess. So yeah, this is what we do for a living. We hands-on working with developers to better understand what they need. And we basically fine-tune our product roadmap according to developer preferences, according to developer requirements. Right now, we are at, I would say, like a training wheel mode. So slashing is not fully functions. Payments are just eating up. But once we'll have like 100 AVSs on mainnet, both on Babylon and EigenLayer, I will be more on point here and said that data analytics and performance is a crucial part because we have no existing parameters or measurement to measure node performance, on-chain reputation of nodes, potential slashing events that could occur. So I would say data and analytics and how to visualize everything into graphs and so yeah.
Would you say like essentially expressing and writing the verification logic is something that Othentic has helped with or that you've seen developers struggle with?
So we do look, of course, on-chain data, and we see like basically it's attestation data and historical performance of nodes. And how can we visualize this reputation for both AVSs and nodes providers to have a better grasp for the industry to measure, what AVS operators should opt in to validate, right? In terms of the AVSs, should they make some sort of like a policy of what operators should be opt-in to validate their networks, right? So I would say that more visualized data and analytics could be a cornerstone for the for the near future of the industry.
Great. I think we're out of time, so unfortunately, no audience questions allowed. No, well, Adam, go ahead.
All right, guys, what can you tell us based on all the people you're meeting that are building on your platforms? I mean, Nader, like the people that you're meeting in your position, and Luke, for you as well. I have a good idea of Babylon because you guys are focused a lot on, providing security to existing POS chains. But for the new people, the people that are coming into the space, how would you, if you guys could like break out the sort of archetypes, the personas, what are like the 3 to 5 personas that you're seeing, and what can you tell us about what we can expect in a couple months or a couple years?
I mean, you have the protocol engineers that have already built networks, and they're kind of rebuilding their ideas using, this architecture. You have people that are kind of like leaving existing companies, going to start their own companies that are, very much, I would say, drawn to the AVS idea because it just makes it a lot easier and less expensive to build. Those are the top two that I would say that we've been seeing in our, discussion channels and things like that. So you have the first-time builders and the second-time builders both kind of like drawn to this idea for me. So.
Yeah, I agree with that framework. So it's kind of like new teams and then existing, projects and teams. And then I would add like almost somewhat of a third one, even if it's not fully MEC. But I think we're also seeing, some kind of OG founders that have, may have somewhat kind of, left the space or like kind of step back from their project, coming back to build again. I think the Bitcoin ecosystem may be something we're seeing more of here on this, which has been pretty exciting because I think for a lot of us, I think to some extent we're all like somewhat closet Bitcoin maxis, and so for a lot of these guys, when they're coming back in the space, they're like, well, I've already kind of, hit a lot of my personal goals. Now I just want to make a difference, right? And so I'm going to tackle on some of the harder problems in this space. For example, I was just chatting with someone whose goal is like, let's get 100 million users into the space, right? And tackle some of these much bigger goals and do it in a way that I think is much more interesting.
I agree with both. There is a long tail of builders ranging from well-established networks that want to spin up internal component as an AVS, ranging to early-stage startups that want to build something new, something novel, using shared security. So
yeah, something that we're really trying to actually get more of is rebuilding these, proven business models or products that have product market fit already. Two different ones. You have the Web3 ones, obviously, that can be rebuilt as an AVS. You also have the PMF of like traditional web services. Like we just had OpenLedger here talking about building verifiable databases. I think that those two things make a ton of sense, and we're trying to kind of like attract Web2 builders, quote unquote, by expressing that hopefully in a way that resonates with them. So.
Can I just ask one addendum? What about teams that are building like AltLayer, that are building multiple AVSs? How much are you seeing of that as well?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more of that actually. It's very attractive to a lot of teams, and they've laid the groundwork and kind of like essentially opened that paradigm up, and now other people are like also trying to build in a similar fashion. So.
Cool. Thanks for the question, guys.
Thanks, Yuan.
Thank you.
Thank you.